Hello. Welcome to Strategy Talks. Would you want to turn your social media content into gold? Have you ever wondered how to use emotions to make your content stand out? Or what psychological triggers drive action on social media? We'll be diving deep into the psychology of emotions on social media today in Strategy Talks. Make sure you stay tuned, and I'll be back in just a minute.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Here's your host, Dorien, Morin-van.
Hello, it's another episode of Strategy Talks. I am so glad you're here with us. If you're live, let us know where you're joining us from. Maybe you're on YouTube or Facebook, or you see this live stream on LinkedIn. If you are listening to this as a podcast, want to make sure that you feel welcomed as well. I am ready for this episode. If you are too, I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm just going to welcome onto the stage my guest today, Samantha Cameron. How are you today?
I'm good. You?
I am great. It's early morning for me. For you, it's early afternoon, correct?
It is midday. Yeah, we've just...
All right. Wonderful. So I'm excited for this topic because this is season 3 of Strategy Talks. I have never had anybody come on and talk about social media and psychology. So I think this is going to be a fantastic conversation. Before we talk about it, let me just tell the listeners and the viewers who you are. Sam is the social media alchemist, helping entrepreneurs and businesses turn their content into gold. As a social media expert, coach, and mentor, she educates and guides individuals on how they can integrate social media psychology into social media strategies. Now, that is brilliant because we're talking about strategies right here. So, Sam, how come you're so fascinated with psychology? We were talking in the green room, and I know it must be because obviously it's working for you and your clients, but how did you get started? Where did the fascination with, emotions and psychology and then the social media, how did that come about?
So I think for me, yes, I can be a social media expert. I can show businesses how to put this piece of content together. I can kind of say to them, think of this, do this, build this in. But the problem is, unless we actually think about the emotions or what our potential clients are thinking or potential customers are thinking, how do we know that we're getting our messaging right? And the other thing that we need to think of as well is how social media is evolving, and actually are we evolving with it as well? So most people that are using social media who are our clients or our customers are mostly pretty much around the same age as us. And because we weren't brought up with social media, we were brought up with more TV and radio, we really struggle to kind of, our brains are struggling to understand, to taking all that information on. And when the average person spends 2 hours and 38 minutes every single day scrolling, think of all that information our brain is taking, and we just can't store it. So what we need to do as business owners and entrepreneurs is make that really easy. So by how we format our posts, how we use emojis, how we use hashtags, how we put certain words and keywords into our social media, how we kind of pull our messaging through so it's actually directed to our clients, our audience, it actually helps with the psychology, and it helps our brains kind of go, oh, do you know what? I'm going to stop scrolling. I'm going to actually interact with this post. That then leads to people engaging with your post. That then leads to people trusting you, buying from you, which then generates your content into gold and making sales. So it's this process that we need to do. But unfortunately, so many people that I work with come to me and say, well, yeah, I know how to post, I know how to schedule, but nothing's working. Why am I not generating sales? And then when we dig deep into what they're doing with their social media strategy, they actually aren't implementing all of the psychology things. And then when they do, that's when it starts to make a difference for them. And that's when they see their social media work. And when it starts working, they do it on a consistency basis. When it doesn't work, we stop doing it. We fall out of love with our social media, and then nothing happens. And then when we have this idea that we're going to do social media, we don't do it because we know we've had a bad experience in the past.
That is so true. I
Mm.
think a lot of us have been on social media, and even for somebody like me who's been on social media for 13 years, working as a social media manager and then social media strategist, there are times that I post that I get crickets, and I feel self-conscious. I'm like, nobody's hearing me, nobody's seeing me, right? So it's about the consistency, is about leveraging those emotions. So what are some basic principles? I know this is completely off script where I was going to go, but I'm hearing you say there's some principles that you need to adhere to. So what are some things that you can share with our audience that is here today, that is listening, that they can start thinking about as they prepare for either their next batch of content, or when they if they're a marketer, work with their client, or if they're business owners, want to evoke that emotion with their potential customers online? What are some things that need to think about or do to prepare to make it better?
So the first thing we need to think about is keeping things really simple, because social media has become busier than it's ever been, and it's changing more than it's ever changed as well. And I don't know whether you've seen it, but someone is out there coaching people to write War and Peace when it comes to their Facebook posts or LinkedIn, and it doesn't work. So from a psychology point of view, we only have a 1 second attention span when it comes to social media content. It's 3 seconds when it comes to our social media profiles. So if you are writing War and Peace, okay, guys, we've got 60,000 characters to use on Facebook. We've got 3.5 on LinkedIn. But doesn't mean just because it's there, we have to use it all. What we want to do is keep it really simple and get our message across. So all people want to know is, what is the problem that they have? How are you going to solve it, and how they can get in contact with you? The next thing we need to think about is, don't use jargon. Keep things really simple again, but use keywords. So think about the keywords that someone would be using if they were searching for you on the internet. And these are the keywords you need to incorporate into your social media content and your strategy, because most of social media platforms now work on keyword search. So we need to make sure that we're using that. And I know that we hate doing this element as well, but we've all been asked to actually create the perfect client, create an avatar, who they are. And this is really important when it comes to your social media, because if you don't know who your ideal client is, like what do they do, who they are, what are they searching for, you're not going to make your social media work for you. So you need to get in the mind of your target audience, your ideal client, and you need to write your social media content as if it is directed at them, not you, at them. Because when you start doing that and you get into the mind of your audience, your social media really does home into them as well. Other things we need to think about is using emojis. So don't go emoji heavy, but social media is black and white. So when we're using images, and guys, please use photographs of yourself, not stock images. Even if you don't want to take a selfie or use an image of yourself, take photos of your surroundings or things that you are doing during the day. But when we use emojis, we put pop of color into our posts, and our brains will actually recognize the color more than the black and white. So as babies, we only see black and white, and that's why we have black and white mobiles. And then as adults, we need to see the color. But the other thing we need to think about with emojis as well, the emojis that we are using will represent the colors of what we're feeling. So when we look at color psychology, if you look at different brands, you look at Chanel, they use black because it's luxurious. You look at a lot of the major banks, they use blue because it's trustworthy and loyal. You look at purple, that's normally fun. Green is environmentally friendly. Red is for food. So again, when you're using emojis, you might want to use emojis to express how you're feeling with emotions, but also think about the colors and what the colors mean that will then get your audience actually homing in on your post, to then build your brand, to build your identity, to build that trust with you as well. And that's some of the things we need to think about. But we need to be consistent as well, because we need to see things 27 times online, on social media, before people buy and trust from us. So if you're somebody that so for example, if you've got an event in 3 months' time and you just put a post out today promoting it and saying, buy your tickets from me now for my event in June, you're mostly not going to sell out your event. So you need to make sure that you are putting content out to tell people that you've got this event going on. But we can't just be selling because we don't like being sold to. We need to make sure that we've got a varied content range in our strategy so that we are saying to people, this is my event, this is when it is, this is how you can buy tickets. Then your content needs to be, look, these are the speakers at the event, this is where the event's going to be, why you need to come along to the event, what are you going to learn at the event, and what are you going to get when you leave. And by building up this story, you create this beautiful jigsaw puzzle, which is going to have all these amazing pieces that people can put together and go, do you know what? I want to be at Sam's next event because she's told me when it is. She's told me how I can buy the ticket. She's told me what I'm going to get. I'm going to get value for money. I'm going to come away from that buzzing, ready to actually grow my business. And that's what we need to be doing with our social media. But unfortunately, people just aren't doing that. And then we go back to this situation where they fall out of love. It's not working because their event, their product didn't sell. And then they just forget and don't do it and don't bother with it anymore.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things, Samantha, that you said that, oh my gosh, I love it. The first one is the emojis. It's not just what the emojis represent, but the color. If you are watching this or listening to this, that is something that I have never thought about. I pick emojis based on what they represent, but I haven't thought about the color. So bam, there is my ROI of this conversation with you right there. I love it. Absolutely great. It makes total sense. It makes so much sense. And then you said something about shorter is better. I don't know if you are familiar with Social Insider. We were just talking about TubeFest. They're coming. They're a tool based in Romania. They're coming to TubeFest, and they do a lot of research, and they just put out a research paper about Instagram captions, and the shorter is better. I mean, we kind of knew that, but they do a lot of studies on social media profiles and social media. Like they'll do LinkedIn captions and they'll get all kinds of great things. And I was just reading one the other day and it said, yeah, you know, less is more on Instagram. And it's so tempting. If you're watching this, you're listening, it's so tempting to want to put all of it, like have that, you know, like social vomiting and just give them all the information because that's what your client wants you to do. Right. I see you smiling like, but
I do, because that's what I say to my clients. Stop throwing up over your audience.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I say. Yeah.
Don't do that, but give them little bits. And I love that. Oh, Sarah is here. Sarah Monroe is here. She's my friend in Northern Vermont. She said she loves Social Insider. Their data is amazing. Yeah. If you're watching this and you've never gone to check it out, their case studies are amazing. So I do get a lot of information from them about how I should post. And there's a lot of psychology behind that, of course, too. And then the other thing that you said that, you know, besides the emoji and the emoji, now I lost my train of thought. But I wanted to highlight when you said about the avatar. I work like you with clients who might have already been on social media for a while and don't really have their avatar dialed in. There are business owners out there that don't understand marketing. And so they fell in love with a product or service and they want to sell that because they love it. And your job as a marketer is to make them understand that they should be selling benefits, not features. And that's kind of what I heard you say. And it's just like, if you're watching this and you're a business owner and you're kind of doing it yourself, your social media, stop talking about the features of your product or your service, what you offer. Start talking about the benefits, which is what Samantha was saying about, say you have an event. Don't say somebody so-and-so is going to speak and so-and-so is going to do this. Only talk about the takeaway, right? So I think that's an important distinction. And you were really great at, you know, explaining that to us. So let's talk about those people who are kind of lurkers right now, but you want them to start engaging. How can we use psychology to get them to come out of their shell? Because that's what we want. We want everybody who lurks on social. There might be other people watching, and I'm not seeing comments because they haven't commented, but they're listening, they're watching. How can we get them to come out and have that conversation with us?
So I love a lurker. I really do, because with social media, your lurkers are more likely to actually buy from you and work from you than those that are interacting with your post, because social media is so busy, and we are, we're scrolling, we get down that rabbit hole of what we're watching, and we just scroll. So we're very busy when it comes to social media. And the thing is, we don't have time to comment. So kind of parking that bit, the question that you've just asked, before I kind of go and answer that, have a think about it this way as well. So with our lurkers, they're people that are scrolling, but they are actually, because we're actually being consistent with our messaging, we're being consistent with our posts, and we're building that brand, they're actually taking all this information in. So when they are then ready to actually come and use us and work with us, they know exactly where they need to go. But yes, we do want to turn those people into that engagement. I speak to so many people that turn around, and so I run a membership, and I run 3 sessions a month in there, and we have guest speakers and everything else that you would normally do in a membership. And I can guarantee you, on every single call, I have a couple of people that say, but I've got no reach on my posts. It's zero reach, zero engagement, zero reach. And then I kind of come offline with them, and I say, right, I want you to share screen your insights with me. That's not zero. You have got people seeing that post, but no one's commenting, no one's interacting. Yes, because the post that you have actually put out doesn't have the call to action to actually ask them to engage with your post. What you're asking them to do is go off Facebook, go to a website, go and look at a blog, sign up to something. So actually what we need to do is you need to have a balance. And this is then going back and answering your question. So with our social media content, we have to have this balance where it's 50% business, 50% personal. We need to show the personal side of us. And I'm not saying, share the argument that you have with your partner, or that you're having a really bad day, or, this has gone wrong. You can do, but you need to make sure you word it in a positive way rather than a negative way. But because we have this balance of 50-50, we can then turn our personal content to have a business theme, and we can have our business theme to be more personal. And then what we're doing, we're inviting people into our world. We're inviting people into our lives, so they get to know us. They get to build those relationships with us. And before you know it, they think they're our best friends, so that they don't actually ever have to meet us, because they know exactly who we are. But what we want them to do is we do want them to engage. So when you're creating content, you have to make sure that you're putting content out there that has got that engaging element. So this is where the call to actions come in. So if you're using a call to action where you're promoting an event or a product, you will add a link, and that's where you're taking them. But we need to ask questions as well. So if you want somebody to interact, you need to start asking questions. For example, I put on a post this morning, which is basically, I'm terrible for coming up with ideas and running with them. And my team have to rein me in, because they're like, no, Sam, stop. We don't have, you don't have time to do that. Focus on this one thing, no shiny penny and all that. But I woke up this morning and so basically I'm running an event in November. I've had over 100 people asked to be speakers at that event. I've only got 3 slots. So what can I do to ensure that those 97 that don't get a speaker slot at my event in November have some airtime with me? I've created a week-long summit. Okay, and I just thought about it this morning. I've said to the team, right, this is the dates we're doing it. We're going to run with that, and we're going to do it. So this morning, I put on my social media on Facebook, who else gets these ideas? And before you know it, you've put a date, you've given it a name, and you've put it on your Trello board. And so many people have commented, because they're like, yeah, I do exactly the same. I'm the same. I'm the same. I'm the same. It's the full moon, blah, blah, blah. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we are getting our audience to engage with us. And it doesn't necessarily have to be business stuff, because what happens is with the algorithm, if you put a post out that's engaging, your post then starts growing momentum, and it's up here. But then if we put a business post out, which we know we're not going to get much engagement, we've got the lurkers, we've got people looking at it instead and taking and retaining that information. We want it to ride on the algorithm of this amazing post.
Yes.
So sometimes what we need to do is we need to get a post out. And the reason why I put that post out this morning was because later on, I'm going to be putting out a post that is going to be selling to people. And I want that post to ride off the back of this one. So there is method in the madness, but this is why we need to have this balance. We know personal posts get really good engagement. So use the personal post for the business post to then ride, because I then find that my business post will get the engagement that I want, whether it's reactions, interactions, or people buying. So there's lots that you need to think around by your strategy, but when you start implementing all these little things, it starts to work.
All right. I have a follow-up question to you. You talked about, and I know I've talked about this on the show. If you're watching, if you're listening, you've heard me talk about this before, but there's a difference between sharing personal things and private things. And you said 50% business and 50% personal.
Yeah.
Where do you have clear boundaries on what you will and will not share on, for example, we're mainly talking LinkedIn. That's really where there's a business place for us to share some more personal stuff, but it really truly is a networking space. Is there a boundary that you've set yourself or that you share with your clients or your membership that you say this is, you should never say this or you should never do that? Or do you leave that up to everybody on their own?
I think it's a personal choice. One thing that I always say to people is don't be political, try not to be controversial, and try not to be negative. So if something negative has happened in your world, then try and put it as a positive, because I think the thing is we can't all be happy and our world is amazing and I've got it all and my life is absolutely perfect. You know, I'm quite happy and honest to say I do think I have it all. I would like to say that 90% of the time my life is perfect, but that's how I choose it to be. 10% of the time I'm rocking in a corner wishing that I could just put a straw in a gin bottle and drink the damn thing. But the thing is, we need to, that is expressing who I am. And we do need to be us. We need to be real. I love the saying by Oscar Wilde, be you, because everyone else is taken.
Yes.
Don't try and be someone else online. Because if you do meet people face to face and they kind of get in front of you, they've built this relationship up with someone that's online. If they then meet you face to face and you're a completely different person, that relationship is ruined straight away.
That has happened to me so many times. Has that happened to you too, where you feel like you know a person, their picture is not updated, and you go to a conference and you run into them and they know you and you have no idea who they are because they don't even look or sound or act like the same person. That personality online does not match. That's happened to you too.
You've got to have that personality come through. And this is where you then decide what you want to share. So I'm very open. I will share all kinds of things. So, I won't share. Well, if I was going to have like a tiff with myself and my husband, we don't really argue. We might have a crossword or a disagreement and I might share it, but I might turn it into kind of a funny angle or go, do you have these debates and things like that? But I think it's sharing what you do. I mean, if you go and follow me on Facebook, I'll literally put warts and all on there because I find that it's then people are coming into my world, they're getting to know me, they know who I am. And then when they work with me, they kind of go, do you know what? I actually want to work with this person. I put a post on about a month ago to basically say, look, if you can't be asked to do your social media, let us do it for you, because I have a social media agency where we do it done for you. And we got about half a dozen inquiries. Brilliant. That's what we want to do. But I had one person that messaged me and said, I would never work with someone that uses language like that on social media. And it's like, well, that's fine, because you're not my ideal client.
Right.
And the relationship won't work, because if you are feeling offended by us, unfortunately, if we do start working together, you're going to be a little bit offended by some of the other language that I might use. And that is who I am. And that's why I find that I have a really good relationship with all of my clients, because they come to work with me because they know me inside and out and they know what they're going to get. And I don't have this issue where I have to say to someone on a discovery call, I'm really sorry, but we're not the right fit. I think you should go and work with so and so, or after 2 weeks of working with them, this isn't going to work, we need to say goodbye. And it takes away so much stress. So I do feel that you have to find what your boundaries are. So for example, if you don't want to share photographs of your family life or your children, don't do it.
Right.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If you are feeling vulnerable, then find what works for you, but just open up your world a little bit. And we can do it in very, very many ways. I have clients who have adopted children, or they foster children, so they can't share their children's photos. So what they might do is share the back of them.
Mhm.
Or I've got a client who has 3 boys under the age of 4. She doesn't want the boys in the photographs, so we do 3 pairs of shoes, 3 bags, 3 chairs around the table, 3 juice cups, that kind of thing.
Right.
We can bring our personal lives in so many different ways that we can really invite people into our worlds really nicely.
Yeah. And if you're a marketer and you're watching this, this is gold for you. Both Samantha and I have had all these years of experience, and both of us know that there's power in being personable, even on a Facebook profile. It's one of the reasons I stream this. Some of you are watching are my personal profile. You're my friends. And I've gotten a lot of ROI from just being visible on my Facebook profile as a social media expert. I don't sell anything, but I go live week after week. So it's me. You get me live every week. And that just shows. So people send me friends and people send me referrals. We are almost out of time, but I have one question for you about FOMO and scarcity. Those seem like almost scare tactics. I know there's psychology behind it. I've seen people use that in their social media posts. And I just wanted to bring that up because I think this is something that, again, some people teach this and some people say stay away from it. But, this is your last chance, or, there's only, 2 seats left, or some of those tactics. What is your take on that? Do you use that? Do you think there's a time and place for that? Let's do that. Let's make that the last question.
Yeah. So FOMO, I do think is great on social media. And I think building up that FOMO, especially when you've got an event coming up, or you've had your event. So for example, I ran an event last week, and then on the FOMO of that, we've launched my event in November. So people are then kind of going, Sam, I want to be at your next event because I couldn't get to the one in March. So I want to be at the one in November. So that's great for FOMO. And that's what I love doing, because we all love FOMO. We see something advertised. Take the Stanley Cup, for example. It's the most, I apologize if anyone watching this has one, but I think it's the most ugliest looking cup going, but they have sold millions. Companies have gone out and replicated them and sold them themselves. But it is honestly, it's the biggest thing. And I just find it really ugly. And I don't actually have one, but it's created this FOMO. So FOMO does work. But when it comes to this kind of building in with our strategy, we have to be ethical. So for example, if you are going to turn around and say, you've only got 10 tickets left, make sure you have only got 10 tickets left, because people can be a little bit of a detective and they can find these things out. And also when we start I'm not saying that you're being Pinocchio and you're lying, you might just be telling a little white lie. It's really hard to then keep track around what you're doing. So the other thing is make sure you're being ethical with it. But and also, if you are going to be putting the price up, make sure you put the price up. Some of the things that I don't like is when someone says that they've got a product that's worth $4,000 or pounds, but actually they're then selling it for 49. I mean, that's like, why would you why are you discounting it that much? So be transparent around what you're doing. And I do think it's okay to kind of say, look, there's only 2 tickets left, or the offer ends at midnight tonight before the price goes up, because we all want to do early bird, we all want to get those tickets sold, and it does kind of produce that thing of, oh, I've got to get my thing, I've got to buy it now, so if I don't buy it now, I'm going to miss out. But one of the things, so this happened to me, my event that I ran last week, we had an early bird price, but I sold out within 2 weeks. So I got the venue to give us a bigger space, so we released more tickets, but it was still within that early bird offer. So I said, look, we've got more tickets, they're going to be on the early bird. Then the early bird finished, but I had 2 spaces left. So I just said, look, I'm not going to make 2 people pay double for their ticket when the other 48 people in the room have paid the early bird. So if you want these 2 tickets for £97, message me today and they're yours. And we did. We sold out the 50 tickets, but I was being honest. I was being genuine. So I think you have to kind of just be ethical, be you, and do it that way.
That makes sense. Okay, Sam, we're at the end. We're at 30 minutes. Tell people, our listeners, our viewers, how they can connect with you. And then if there's any links, I can put them in the show notes and in the comments later today. So where are you online? What is the best place to connect with you?
Okay, so if you go and put Samantha Cameron Social into your internet browser, you will find me all over the show. You can find me on Facebook. You can under Samantha Cameron. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. I'm Samantha Cameron Strategist. I'm on LinkedIn under Samantha Cameron. I will send you over all of my link to my website, and everything is on there as well. So I'm everywhere.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you in real life in Birmingham in May at Tube Fest. So if you're watching this, this is my second or third guest, third at least, maybe even fourth guest. That's also going to be part of Tube Fest. If you want to learn more about video, want to learn more from brilliant people who are implementing all the tips they're giving, because I think that is really the lineup that we have at Tube Fest. Connect with Sam or me. We'll tell you where to get your ticket. You can do a virtual ticket, an in-person ticket. I'll be there. Sam's going to be there. Robin Wade was on my show, is going to be there. Louise Brogan was on my show. She's going to be there. So please come. And Sam, I really appreciate you being with me today, talking about social media and psychology. Is it fascinating? I think we could talk another 3 hours, but maybe I'll have you back on the show another time. Thank you so much, everybody else, for being with us today. And I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.